The beginning of their story. The soft morning sunlight filtered through the stained glass windows of Street Harmony Church, painting colorful patterns on the polished wooden pews. The serene sound of the choir's hymn filled the air, blending with the murmurs of families settling in for the Sunday service. Emma Fletcher, a woman with bright hazel eyes and a quiet confidence, sat in her usual spot near the front. She wore a modest floral dress, her auburn hair tied back in a loose braid, and her demeanor radiated warmth and kindness. Emma loved this town. She had spent her entire life here, growing up surrounded by a close-knit community that thrived on tradition and familiarity. Her parents were well-respected business owners, and Emma herself was regarded as a shining example of a young woman with a bright future. With a degree in business and a steady job at a law firm, she was seen as the kind of person who could do no wrong. People often admired her, sometimes envied her, and occasionally whispered about her. But Emma's heart carried a longing that few could see. Though she smiled and participated in the expected routines of her life, she often felt out of place, like she was living someone else's dream. The polished expectations of her community, the relentless pursuit of status and appearances, it all left her feeling hollow. She yearned for something real, something meaningful, something that would fill the quiet ache in her soul. The service that day was especially poignant. Pastor Mike, a charismatic and compassionate figure, spoke about humility and the importance of helping others. True strength, he said, his voice steady and heartfelt, is not measured by wealth or power, but by a humble heart and a helping hand. His words resonated deeply with Emma. She nodded along, feeling as though the message was meant for her. When the service ended, Emma lingered in the church basement, where volunteers had gathered for the community outreach program. She enjoyed these moments, rolling up her sleeves, sorting through donations, and packing food boxes for families in need. It gave her a sense of purpose, a reminder that life was about more than chasing material success. As she worked, she noticed a man quietly mopping the floor on the far side of the room. He was tall and lean, his dark skin glowing slightly under the fluorescent lights. He moved with a quiet grace, pausing occasionally to greet the children from the youth group with a smile or a quick high five. His kind eyes and shy demeanor immediately caught Emma's attention. She watched him for a moment, intrigued. He wasn't like anyone else in this room. While others bustled about with chatter and laughter, he worked silently, his presence almost unnoticed. There was something about him, a quiet strength, a humility, that drew her in. Emma shook herself out of her thoughts and focused on her task. She reached for a box of canned goods on a high shelf, but her fingers slipped, and the box tumbled toward the ground. Before she could react, a pair of strong hands caught it mid-fall. "Got it," a deep, calm voice said. Startled, Emma looked up to see the man standing before her, the box in his hands. Up close, his eyes were even kinder, and his smile was warm, disarming. He set the box down gently and extended a hand. "Hi, I'm Jacob," he said, his voice carrying a hint of nervousness. Emma blinked, momentarily caught off guard by the intensity of his presence. She recovered quickly and took his hand, her own voice soft but steady. "Emma, thank you for catching that." He shrugged modestly, just in the right place at the right time. For a moment, they stood there, an unspoken connection forming between them. It was the kind of moment Emma had only read about in books, a fleeting yet profound sense that she had just met someone who would change her life. Over the next few weeks, Emma found herself looking forward to Sundays more than ever. She began volunteering more often, always hoping to see Jacob. Their conversations were brief at first, a few kind words exchanged as they worked side by side, but they quickly grew into something deeper. Jacob was unlike anyone Emma had ever met. He was thoughtful, passionate about helping others, and deeply grounded in his values. Though he worked as a janitor at the church and several local schools, he spoke with a quiet dignity that commanded respect. One afternoon, as they finished packing food boxes, Emma finally asked the question that had been on her mind. "Jacob, why do you spend so much time here? I mean, most people come and go, but you're always here, helping." Jacob paused, leaning on the mott handle. He looked at her with a mixture of curiosity and sincerity. "I guess it's because I know what it's like to need help," he said. "Growing up, my family didn't have much. But there were people, kind, generous people, who made a difference in our lives. I want to be that for someone else." His words hit Emma like a wave. She realized that Jacob's work wasn't just a job for him. It was a calling, a way of giving back to a world that had often overlooked him. The more they talked, the more Emma felt her heart stir in ways she hadn't expected. Jacob's humility, his passion, his unwavering kindness, they were everything she had been searching for without even knowing it. He saw the world differently than most people she knew. Where others saw obstacles, he saw opportunities to make a difference. Where others judged based on appearances or status, he looked deeper, seeing people for who they truly were. One Sunday evening, after everyone else had left the church, Emma and Jacob found themselves sitting on the steps outside, watching the sun set over the town. The sky was painted in hues of orange and pink, and the air was filled with the soft hum of cicadas. "Do you ever feel like you're meant for something more?" Emma asked, breaking the comfortable silence. Jacob glanced at her, his expression thoughtful. "More than what?" "More than just following the script," she said, gesturing vaguely. "You know, the expectations, the routines. Sometimes I feel like I'm just going through the motions, trying to fit into this mold that doesn't even feel like mine." Jacob nodded slowly. "Yeah, I get that. But I think more doesn't always mean bigger or grander. Sometimes it just means being true to yourself, no matter what anyone else thinks." Emma turned to look at him, her heart swelling with an emotion she couldn't quite name. In that moment, she realized something profound. Jacob wasn't just a kind man or a good friend. He was someone who saw the world, and her, with a clarity that made her feel alive. And for the first time in a long while, Emma felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. The struggle. The first year of Emma and Jacob's marriage was both beautiful and challenging. They lived in a modest two-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of town, far from the polished neighborhoods Emma had grown up in. The walls were thin, the appliances outdated, and the floors creaked with every step, but it was theirs. And despite the humble setting, it was filled with warmth, laughter, and the undeniable bond they shared. However, not everyone saw their love through the same lens. Emma's decision to marry Jacob had sent shockwaves through her social circle. Her friends from the law firm, the women she had once shared brunches and book clubs with, couldn't hide their disbelief. "You married a janitor," one had whispered with a mix of shock and condescension at the wedding reception. "Emma, you could have had anyone. Why him?" Her family's reaction had been even harsher. Her mother, a woman known for her impeccable social connections, had cried bitter tears. "I raised you to have standards, Emma," she had said. "He's a good man, I'm sure, but love doesn't pay the bills or keep your reputation intact." Emma had stood firm. "I didn't marry Jacob for what he has. I married him for who he is," she had replied, her voice steady despite the hurt. Jacob, for his part, bore the judgment with quiet dignity. He knew people talked behind his back, questioned his worth, and doubted his intentions. But he never wavered in his love for Emma. He worked long hours, mopping floors, fixing broken fixtures, and taking on odd jobs to make ends meet. His hands were calloused from labor, but they were always gentle when he held Emma close. One evening, as they sat on the worn-out couch in their living room, sharing a simple dinner of spaghetti and garlic bread, Jacob looked at Emma with a seriousness that made her heart ache. "I know this isn't the life you're used to," he said quietly. "And I know people talk. If you ever regret—" "Stop," Emma interrupted, placing her hand over his. "I don't regret anything. Not for a second. You make me happy, Jacob, and that's worth more than all the approval in the world." His eyes softened, and he smiled that shy, heartwarming smile that had first drawn her to him. "I'm the luckiest man alive," he said. Their love was strong, but love alone couldn't shield them from the challenges they faced. Money was tight, and there were nights when Emma lay awake, worrying about how they would pay the bills. The law firm where she worked was demanding, and the long hours left her drained. But she refused to quit. She wanted to contribute, to ensure that they had a stable future. Jacob, too, was determined to do more. He dreamed of starting his own cleaning service, a business that would not only support them, but also provide opportunities for people who, like him, were often overlooked. "It's not just about making money," he explained to Emma one night as they sat on their balcony, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. "It's about giving people dignity and a chance to build a better life." Emma admired his vision. "We'll make it happen," she said confidently. "Together." But not everyone was rooting for them. At social events, Emma overheard whispers and saw the raised eyebrows. "Poor Emma," someone had said once, not realizing she was within earshot. "She threw her life away for a janitor. Such a waste of potential." Those words stung, but Emma reminded herself that they didn't define her or Jacob. Their love was stronger than society's narrow definitions of success. One particularly difficult day, Emma came home from work feeling defeated. Her boss had criticized her presentation, and a colleague had made a snide remark about her interesting choice of spouse. She fought back tears as she unlocked the front door. Jacob was in the kitchen, humming softly as he stirred a pot of soup. The aroma of garlic and herbs filled the air. He looked up as she entered, concern flickering in his eyes. "Hey, you okay?" he asked gently. Emma shook her head, unable to hold back the tears. "It's just everything. Work, people's comments. I'm so tired, Jacob." He set down the spoon and pulled her into his arms. "You don't have to carry it all alone," he whispered. "I'm here. Always." His words were a balm to her soul. In that moment, Emma realized that no matter how hard life got, they would face it together. Their journey wasn't easy, but it was filled with small victories. Jacob's reputation as a diligent and trustworthy worker grew, and soon, people began recommending him for private cleaning jobs. Emma found joy in mentoring younger colleagues at the firm, helping them navigate the challenges of the corporate world. But their greatest victory was the unwavering love they had for each other. It was a love that refused to be defined by societal expectations or material possessions, a love that grew stronger with each challenge they faced. One Saturday afternoon, as they sat in a local park watching children play, Emma leaned her head on Jacob's shoulder. "You know," she said thoughtfully, "I used to think success was about money, status, and fancy titles. But now I realize it's about finding happiness in the life you build with the person you love." Jacob kissed the top of her head. "And by that measure, we're the richest people in the world." Emma smiled, knowing he was right. They might not have everything the world valued, but they had something far more precious, a love that would withstand the test of time. And as they sat there, basking in the simple joy of being together, Emma knew that their journey was just beginning. They would face whatever came their way with courage, resilience, and a love that was unbreakable. Rising above the storm, the summer brought new challenges for Emma and Jacob. The air was thick with the scent of blooming flowers and freshly cut grass, but beneath the sunny skies, tensions brewed in their lives. Jacob's cleaning service was gaining momentum, and while that was a blessing, it came with its share of problems. Emma, too, was grappling with increasing responsibilities at the law firm, where some colleagues continued to undermine her at every turn. Despite their busy schedules, they made it a point to have dinner together every night, even if it was just a simple meal of grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup. It was during these quiet moments that they found solace and strength in each other. One evening, Jacob arrived home later than usual, his shoulders slumped with exhaustion. Emma was waiting for him, a worried look on her face. "Long day?" she asked, handing him a glass of water. He nodded, sinking into the worn-out couch. "The Johnsons canceled their contract. They said they found someone cheaper." Emma frowned. But you do such a great job. Why would they? Jacob shrugged. Not everyone sees the value in quality work. Sometimes they just see a guy with a mop. Emma's heart ached for him. She knew how hard he worked, how much pride he took in his business. Their loss, she said firmly. We'll find better clients, ones who appreciate what you bring to the table. He gave her a tired smile. Thanks, Em. I needed that. As the weeks went by, Jacob's business faced more hurdles. Equipment breakdowns, unreliable subcontractors, and the constant challenge of convincing new clients to give him a chance all weighed heavily on him. But through it all, he refused to give up. Emma, too, was fighting her own battles at the firm. A particularly cutthroat colleague, Monica, seemed determined to sabotage her at every opportunity. Emma's ideas were dismissed in meetings, and her hard work often went unrecognized. One Friday afternoon, after a particularly grueling day, Emma sat in her office, staring blankly at her computer screen. Monica's latest power play had cost Emma a major client, and the humiliation stung deeply. Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. It was a text from Jacob. "Meet me at the park. Got something to show you." Curiosity piqued. Emma grabbed her bag and headed out. The park was their favorite place, a quiet oasis where they could escape the noise of the world. She found Jacob waiting near their usual bench, a mischievous grin on his face. "What's going on?" she asked, smiling despite her exhaustion. He held up a small set of keys. "Come with me." They walked across the park to a row of small commercial units. Jacob stopped in front of one with a freshly painted sign, Bright Horizons Cleaning Services. Emma's eyes widened. "Jacob, is this yours?" He nodded, pride shining in his eyes. "Our very own office space. It's small, but it's a start. I saved up for months and found a great deal on the lease. What do you think?" Tears filled Emma's eyes. "I think you're amazing," she said, wrapping her arms around him. Jacob's determination had paid off, and this new chapter marked the beginning of a turning point for them. With a physical office, his business gained credibility, and clients began pouring in. Emma helped him set up a proper bookkeeping system and created marketing materials to attract more customers. Their late-night brainstorming sessions, fueled by coffee and laughter, became a cherished routine. But success didn't come without its share of challenges. One afternoon, as Jacob was meeting with a new client, two men in business suits approached him. Jacob Harris, one of them asked, his tone sharp. "That's me," Jacob replied. The man handed him a legal document. "You've been served. Trademark infringement." Jacob's heart sank. He read through the paperwork, his mind racing. A large national cleaning company was claiming that his business name was too similar to theirs. The legal fees alone could ruin him. When he told Emma that evening, her jaw clenched with determination. "They're bullying you because they think they can get away with it," she said. "But they're wrong." Emma's legal expertise became their greatest weapon. She worked tirelessly, drafting a response and gathering evidence to refute the claim. It was a long and stressful process, but they faced it together, their bond growing stronger with each challenge. The case eventually settled in Jacob's favor, and the experience only fueled his resolve to succeed. His business flourished, gaining a reputation for excellence and integrity. Meanwhile, Emma's persistence at the law firm finally paid off. The managing partner recognized her talent and promoted her to a senior position, much to Monica's chagrin. Emma had proven herself, not by playing dirty but by staying true to her values. One evening, as they sat on their balcony watching the city lights twinkle, Emma took Jacob's hand. "We've been through so much," she said. "But look at us now. We didn't just survive. We thrived." Jacob squeezed her hand, and we did it together. Their journey was far from over, but they had learned that love, resilience, and unwavering support could conquer even the toughest storms. Emma and Jacob had built a life that was uniquely theirs, a life filled with purpose, joy, and the unshakable belief that they could face anything as long as they had each other. The winds of change. Years passed, and Emma and Jacob's lives blossomed in ways neither of them had imagined. Their love had weathered countless storms and come out stronger, more resilient, and unshakable. Jacob's cleaning business had grown from a modest operation into a thriving enterprise with a fleet of vans and a team of dedicated employees who admired his leadership and work ethic. Emma, now a respected senior partner at her law firm, had become a champion for fair treatment and inclusivity in the workplace. Her relentless drive and unwavering integrity earned her a reputation as a fierce but compassionate leader. The whispers and raised eyebrows that had once followed them had long faded, replaced by admiration and even envy. But success came with its own set of challenges. The demands of their respective careers meant that time together had become a rare luxury. Late nights at the office, business trips, and endless meetings began to chip away at the simple joys they had once cherished. One evening, as Emma sat at her desk reviewing a complicated case file, her phone buzzed. It was a text from Jacob. "Hey, dinner plans." Emma sighed, guilt gnawing at her. "Still at the office. You go ahead without me." Jacob's reply was immediate. "Miss you. Don't work too hard." Emma stared at the screen, her heart heavy. She missed him too, missed the laughter, the quiet conversations, the feeling of simply being together. The next weekend, determined to reconnect, Jacob suggested a getaway to the countryside. "No phones, no emails, just us," he said with a hopeful smile. Emma hesitated. Her caseload was overwhelming, and deadlines loomed large. But the look in Jacob's eyes reminded her of what truly mattered. "Okay," she agreed, her heart already lighter. "Let's do it." They drove to a quaint cabin nestled in the woods, surrounded by towering pines and the soothing sounds of nature. The air was crisp and filled with the earthy scent of moss and wildflowers. Emma took a deep breath, feeling the tension begin to melt away. Their days were filled with long hikes, lazy afternoons by the lake, and evenings spent under a canopy of stars. They laughed, reminisced, and rediscovered the rhythm of their love. On their last night at the cabin, Jacob lit a fire in the stone hearth. The flames crackled and cast a warm glow over the cozy room. Emma sat on the plush rug, sipping a mug of hot cocoa. Jacob joined her, his expression thoughtful. "I've been thinking," he said slowly. "We've built something incredible together, but I don't want to lose sight of why we started this journey in the first place." Emma set down her mug, sensing the seriousness of his tone. "What do you mean?" "I love my business, and I know you love your work, but I don't want us to become strangers because of it," he said. "Maybe it's time to rethink what success looks like for us." Emma's heart clenched. She knew he was right. They had both become so consumed by their professional lives that they had neglected the foundation of their happiness, their relationship. "What are you suggesting?" she asked softly. "Maybe we scale back a bit," Jacob said. "Focus on what really matters. Spend more time giving back, mentoring others, and just being together." Emma considered his words. The idea of stepping back from the relentless grind was both terrifying and liberating. "You're right," she said, her voice steady. "Let's redefine success on our terms." Their decision marked a turning point. Emma transitioned to a part-time consulting role at the firm, using her expertise to mentor young lawyers and advocate for social justice initiatives. Jacob streamlined his business operations, empowering his team to take on leadership roles while he focused on community outreach programs. Together, they launched a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing job training and support for underprivileged individuals. The program offered not only practical skills, but also mentorship and personal development opportunities. The impact was profound. People who had once struggled to find stable employment now stood tall with newfound confidence and purpose. Emma and Jacob's story became an inspiration, proving that success was not measured by titles or bank accounts, but by the lives one touched and the love one nurtured. One sunny afternoon, They stood on a stage at a community event, surrounded by graduates of their program. The crowd erupted into applause as Jacob spoke passionately about the power of resilience and compassion. Emma took the microphone, her voice strong and heartfelt. "We've learned that true success is about lifting others up, standing by the people you love, and never losing sight of what matters most." As they looked out at the smiling faces, Emma felt a profound sense of fulfillment. They had built something far greater than they had ever dreamed, a legacy of love, hope, and change. Later that evening, as they sat on their porch watching the sunset, Jacob took Emma's hand. "We did good, didn't we?" he said, his voice filled with pride. Emma smiled, her heart full. "We did better than good. We built a life worth living." And in that quiet moment, under the vast expanse of the evening sky, they knew that their journey was far from over. But whatever came next, they would face it together, hand in hand, with hearts full of love and purpose. Trials of the heart. The morning sun filtered through the gauzy curtains of their bedroom, casting soft golden hues across the room. Emma stretched languidly, savoring the rare luxury of waking up without an alarm blaring in her ear. Jacob was already up, judging by the faint clatter of pans coming from the kitchen. Smiling to herself, she slipped out of bed and padded down the hallway. The savory aroma of eggs and crispy bacon greeted her as she entered the kitchen. Jacob stood by the stove, wearing a plaid apron and humming a tune she didn't recognize. "Good morning, chef," she teased, wrapping her arms around his waist. "Morning, beautiful," he said, turning to kiss her on the forehead. "Breakfast is almost ready." They sat together at the small dining table, enjoying the simple meal and the peace that came with it. Life had slowed down since they made the decision to step back from their demanding careers. Their days were now filled with meaningful work, community involvement, and most importantly, each other. But peace is often fleeting, and life has a way of testing even the strongest bonds. Later that afternoon, as they walked through the bustling community center they had helped establish, Emma noticed a familiar face near the entrance. Her heart sank. It was Monica, her former colleague from the law firm, the same woman who had once gone out of her way to make Emma's life difficult. Monica spotted her and approached with a tight smile. "Emma," she said smoothly, "it's been a while." "It has," Emma replied, keeping her tone polite but guarded. "I heard about your transition to nonprofit work," Monica said, her eyes gleaming with thinly veiled condescension. "Quite the downgrade, isn't it? Must be nice to have the luxury to step away from the real world." Emma's jaw clenched, but before she could respond, Jacob stepped in with a calm but firm tone. "Actually, it's been the best decision we've ever made. Helping people find dignity and purpose in their work, that's as real as it gets." Monica's smile faltered, and she muttered a quick goodbye before walking away. Jacob placed a reassuring hand on Emma's shoulder. "You okay?" "Yeah," she said, exhaling slowly. "It's just amazing how some people never change." Jacob chuckled. "Let them talk. We'd know the truth." But despite Jacob's words, Monica's jab lingered in Emma's mind. Had she really walked away from something meaningful? Had she traded ambition for comfort? That evening, as they sat by the fireplace, Emma voiced her thoughts. "Do you ever wonder if we made the right choice?" Jacob's brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" "I mean, leaving behind our old lives. Sometimes I wonder if I should have stayed at the firm, kept fighting for change from within." Jacob considered her words carefully. "Emma, you didn't leave because you couldn't handle it. You left because you wanted to make a difference on your own terms. And look at what we've accomplished together. Don't let someone like Monica make you doubt yourself." His words were a balm to her soul, but the nagging doubt remained. The following weeks brought unexpected challenges. A fire broke out in one of their program's training facilities, causing significant damage and halting operations. Emma and Jacob spent countless hours coordinating repairs and finding alternative spaces for training sessions. The financial strain was palpable. Their savings, once comfortable, were dwindling rapidly. Jacob's business, though successful, couldn't cover all the expenses, and donations were slower than usual. One evening, as they sat at the kitchen table poring over spreadsheets, Emma rubbed her temples in frustration. "We're bleeding money, Jacob. If we don't find a solution soon, we'll have to shut down some of our programs." Jacob's expression was grim. "We'll figure it out. We always do." But Emma wasn't so sure. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on her shoulders. She had fought so hard to build something meaningful, and now it felt like it was slipping through her fingers. Desperate for a solution, Emma reached out to former colleagues, hoping to secure sponsorships or partnerships. Some were supportive, but many were hesitant, unwilling to invest in what they saw as a risky venture. One rainy afternoon, as she sat in a sleek corporate office waiting for a meeting, Emma felt a pang of nostalgia for her old life. The buzz of legal discussions, the sharp suits, the sense of power, it was intoxicating. The executive she met with was polite but dismissive. "Your work is admirable, Emma," he said, "but it's not aligned with our corporate objectives. Best of luck, though." As she walked out of the building, rain soaking her coat, Emma felt a crushing sense of defeat. Back home, Jacob was waiting for her, concern etched on his face. "How did it go?" "Another dead end," she said, her voice flat. Jacob pulled her into a hug. "We'll get through this," he promised. "We always do." His unwavering faith bolstered her resolve. They redoubled their efforts, reaching out to local businesses, organizing fundraising events, and rallying community support. Their determination paid off. Donations poured in, and volunteers stepped up to help rebuild the training facility. The grand reopening was a triumphant moment. Emma and Jacob stood on stage, their hearts full as they looked out at the crowd. Graduates of their program, supporters and friends who believed in their mission. As the crowd cheered, Emma's eyes met Jacob's. "We did it," she whispered. He smiled, his eyes shining with pride. Together. That night, as they walked home hand in hand, Emma felt a profound sense of gratitude. Their journey had been far from easy, but it was rich with purpose and love. "I don't regret a thing," she said softly. "Me neither," Jacob agreed. "And I never will." Their path was one of twists and turns, but they had learned that true success wasn't about accolades or wealth. It was about resilience, love, and making a difference. And as they faced the future, they knew they were ready for whatever came next. A legacy of love. The years rolled by, but time had done nothing to diminish the fire between Emma and Jacob. They had weathered challenges, celebrated triumphs, and built a life rooted in purpose and love. Their nonprofit organization had become a beacon of hope, transforming countless lives and fostering a sense of community that radiated far beyond their city. On a warm spring afternoon, Emma and Jacob stood in the heart of the community center, now a sprawling campus with state-of-the-art training rooms, counseling spaces, and even a child care facility for participants. The air buzzed with excitement as graduates of their job training program gathered for a special ceremony. Jacob adjusted the microphone on the stage, his voice steady as he addressed the crowd. "Today, we celebrate not just hard work and dedication, but the power of belief. Belief in yourself, in second chances, and in the strength of community." The applause was thunderous. Emma's heart swelled with pride as she watched the graduates beam with joy, their loved ones cheering them on. After the ceremony, a young woman approached Emma, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Mrs. Harris, I just wanted to say thank you. This program changed my life. I was at rock bottom, but now I have a stable job and a future I can be proud of." Emma's throat tightened. "You did that," she said warmly. "We just gave you the tools. You built your success." The woman smiled. "You and Mr. Harris inspire me. You make people believe in themselves." As the day wound down, Emma and Jacob walked hand in hand through the garden behind the community center. The scent of blooming jasmine filled the air, and the golden light of sunset bathed everything in warmth. "You know," Jacob said thoughtfully, I never imagined my life would turn out like this. Back when I was mopping floors at the church, I didn't think I was destined for much." Emma squeezed his hand. "And look at you now. You've touched more lives than most people ever will." Jacob chuckled. "Thanks to you, Em. You saw something in me when no one else did." Emma stopped and turned to face him. "Jacob Harris, you were always extraordinary. I just had the privilege of witnessing it first." They shared a quiet moment, the weight of their journey hanging in the air. That evening, back at their home, they sat on the porch swing, watching the stars blink into existence. The cool breeze rustled the trees, and the world felt serene. "You ever think about what's next?" Jacob asked. Emma nodded. "All the time. I want to travel more, maybe write a book about our journey. But most of all, I want to keep finding ways to give back." Jacob grinned. "I'd read that book." "You better," Emma teased. Their laughter faded into comfortable silence, each lost in thought. The legacy they had built was undeniable, but they both knew that their greatest accomplishment was the love they had nurtured through every twist and turn of life. A week later, their efforts received unexpected recognition. The city awarded them the Community Impact Medal for their contributions to social development and job creation. The event was grand, with city officials, media, and community members gathered to celebrate their achievements. As Emma stood on stage to accept the award, she felt a rush of emotions. "This isn't just our story," she said, her voice steady. "It's the story of every person who dared to dream, who refused to give up, and who believed that a better life was possible. Thank you for being part of this journey." Jacob joined her at the podium, his eyes shining with pride. "None of this would have been possible without love, the love we have for each other and for this community. Love is the most transformative force there is." The audience rose to their feet, applause echoing through the grand hall. Later that night, as they sat in their living room surrounded by flowers and congratulatory notes, Emma leaned against Jacob. "We've come a long way, haven't we?" He nodded. "And we're not done yet." Their journey had been filled with twists and turns, but through it all, they had held on to each other, defying expectations, and creating a life of meaning and joy. As they faced the future, Emma and Jacob knew one thing for certain. Their love story was far from over. There were still dreams to chase, lives to touch, and memories to make. And they would do it all, together. Full circle of love. The sun was just beginning to set, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson as Emma and Jacob sat side by side on the porch swing of their country home. Their journey had spanned decades, filled with love, triumphs, challenges, and more memories than they could count. Yet, even now, their hearts beat with the same passion that had brought them together years ago. A soft breeze carried the scent of wildflowers from the nearby meadow, and Jacob smiled as he watched a group of children playing tag near the fence. Among them was their granddaughter, Lily, her laughter ringing through the air like a melody. "She's got your energy," Jacob teased, nudging Emma gently. Emma chuckled. "And your stubborn streak." They shared a knowing look, the kind forged through years of shared experiences. Life had taken them from humble beginnings to unimaginable heights, but the love they had built remained their greatest achievement. Tonight was a special night, the 25th anniversary of their nonprofit organization. The community had come together to celebrate the milestone, and the fields behind their home had been transformed into a vibrant festival ground with twinkling lights, food stalls, and a stage for performances. As the evening festivities began, familiar faces from years past approached them with warm smiles and heartfelt stories. "Mr. and Mrs. Harris," a middle-aged man said, his voice thick with emotion, "I just wanted to thank you. I was one of the first people in your job training program, and because of you, I've built a career I'm proud of. My son's here tonight. He's starting college next year." Emma's eyes glistened with tears. "That means the world to us," she said sincerely. Jacob shook the man's hand firmly. "You did the work. We just gave you a nudge." As the man walked away, Emma leaned into Jacob. This is why we did it." Jacob nodded, and it was worth every challenge. The evening's highlight was a speech from Lily, who had grown up witnessing her grandparents' dedication to making the world a better place. Now a young woman with dreams of her own, she stood confidently on the stage, her voice steady and clear. "My grandparents taught me that love and compassion can change lives," she began. "They built this community with their hearts and never wavered, even when times were tough. They showed me that true success isn't about wealth or status. It's about the impact you make and the love you share." The audience erupted into applause, and Emma felt Jacob squeeze her hand. "She's something special," Jacob whispered proudly. "She takes after her grandfather," Emma said with a smile. After the speeches and performances, the night gave way to dancing under the stars. Emma and Jacob swayed to a slow melody, lost in their own world. The years seemed to melt away, and for a moment, they were the same young couple who had defied expectations and built a life filled with love and purpose. "I wouldn't change a thing," Emma murmured. Jacob smiled. "Not a single thing." As the music faded, they stood together, their hearts full. The lights of the festival glowed softly in the distance, and the laughter of family and friends filled the air. Their journey had come full circle, but Emma and Jacob knew that this was just another chapter in their story. There were still adventures to be had, lessons to be learned, and love to be shared. And as they faced the future, hand in hand, they knew one thing for certain: their love would endure, a beacon of hope and inspiration for generations to come. Under the vast expanse of the starry sky, Emma and Jacob embraced the beautiful, unpredictable, and extraordinary life they had built together, a life that had proven, time and time again, that love was the most powerful force of all.